Good morning once again, everybody. We are going to talk about a more touchier subject. The reason why it's touchy is because they sure as hell do not want you or me or anybody else to start operating in this way. Operating in what way? In the way to get your freedom back. All right. I can't guarantee I'll hit every point. All right. By all means, if you find another point or another axis, another pivot that's worth considering, throw it in the comments below. Regardless, most people, you, me, everybody else, we didn't exactly sign up for this. All right. This uh, somewhat overpolluted ball of shit. These top heavy, gargantuan fucking monsters of authoritarian control. I mean, we can window dress it, make it look nice, but at the end of the day, all power is authoritarian. All right. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to it. And at least in terms of freedom, honestly, and I do have to make this point, not that I'm against, widespread general freedom, but the majority of the pain that people feel outside of financial concerns and all the other bullshit of life, the majority of the pain that affects people comes from the fact that they did live freely. And in the moment, it was great. All right. Everybody loves the fun car. Everybody loves the fun times until they get older. And then the cost of the fun car, the cost of the good times, the booger sugar, literally everything. Your health goes to shit. Your finances go to shit. Your entire life is kind of upside down. And then a lot of people, especially those who go through a level of awakening, realize, you know, looking back on it, the fun times weren't really worth the price that I'm paying now. Okay. But this isn't going to focus on that. This is going to focus on how to get your goddamn freedom back. All right. And this applies to everybody. First and foremost, a lot of people are still locked into the tunnel vision mindset of we have to elect a new leader. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but they're all on the same team. All right. This is fundamental. The people who conveniently end up in positions of power and authority, they don't get there by accident. All right. You don't see Billy Bob running for president. It doesn't happen. All right. These are all the connected classes at the top. These are the people who maintain their control. Now, people will look at the gargantuan monster and think, we just need to change it a little bit. No, no, that's not going to do it. All right. I'm sorry to break it to you, but that's not going to do it. That's not going to achieve anything like you're envisioning. The reality is structures like these repeat throughout history, and they all end up in the exact same place. They always collapse every single time. All right, too many promises are made. And honestly, the reality is people pay attention and support the things that work. As things stop working, they naturally pull back their attention and their effort in support of it. Okay. You look at the male female dynamics, guys aren't going to be able, most guys, half of women are going to be single by 50. All right, single by, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 50. They're going to be single from 50 on. All right. Guys don't have to work that much anymore. All right. The cost for a guy to, stay alive, even though the inflation has increased, the cost of a guy to stay alive is relatively minimal. All right. It's not that bad. Women, on the other hand, cost a goddamn fortune. So guys are pulling back, they're contributing less, they're working less hours, they're taking jobs that skill wise, even if they could get a higher skill, higher pay job, a lot of guys have been pulling back and just frying donuts for a living, just basic low level jobs. Because, yeah, there might be stress in it, but compared to the stresses, you get paid 3 times more. And they expect you to take 6 to 12 times the stress and torture of getting projects done on time. And God help you with the politics. But here's the reality. The only way you can't fix the system. The only way to actually get the changes that you're looking for is by subversion. All right. Now, subversion, of course, carries, can carry some heavy penalties. All right. Especially if subversive activities are particularly, essentially, if you're going out there trying to obviously fuck shit up for the system, it's gonna put its boot on you. Okay. But you don't need to, essentially, what that turns into, if you end up going down that rabbit hole, you get into essentially going from uh, individuals who are sick of the system to a living, breathing insurgency. And you know what the hell this system does to anybody it considers insurgents. Okay. At its base, all right, the solution isn't going to come from outside. It's going to come from within. All right. It's going to come from people individually deciding that they've had enough. All right. And from that, realizing that if we're all going to suffer, why not suffer together? All right. It's an incredibly powerful force. All right. Misery loves company. All right. And people absolutely do use that to an advantage. But you use misery loves company. And essentially, one thing you have to do, especially as you get older, you have to find your tribe. All right. Like, it's non negotiable. I've said it multiple times. Tons of other creators have said this countless fucking times. It's not optional. You have to find the people that you can surround yourself with, that you can trust, that are stable, who aren't going to screw you at the drop of a hat. You got to find the people who will look out for your best interest, especially when you're slipping. And you have to also look out for their best interest. All right. That's the fundamental, that's the base. All right. Once you get there, then it gets interesting. So if you go through Malthusian understandings, the primary value, the primary wealth is what we extract from the earth. Okay. The food is value, the lumber is value, uh, mineral deposits, value. I mean, shit, even the stone is value. All right. The planet itself is the value. All right. And we carve out of the planet whatever the hell we need to build or do whatever we want to do and feed ourselves and drink not cripplingly polluted water. All right. Look into super sites and, just they say it's 1,200. It's not 1,200. It's over 4,500 toxic waste dumps, reservoirs, problems that, of course, the poor old private sector just dumped onto the public sector. All right. Yet another reason why we should start, I mean, ideally on a state by state basis, just start yoinking corporate charters and booting corporations out. All right. They worry about the shareholders. They don't give a fuck about you. And in that charge for shareholder value, they will absolutely poison you, maim you, destroy you. Okay. They're not out there for your best interest. Knowing that Malthusian logic when it comes to where value is actually derived, top level or base level value, that's where you start. That's where you start. All right. It literally could start with a gardening club. There is a reason why, and these stories were out there around the 2010s. There's a reason why ordinances were going after people who were doing rainwater collection, uh, little old grannies who were setting up like home gardens, relatively small, not really doing too much. But the reason why they're going after that is because they want to root out the competition. Okay. This is something the Soviets understood. This is something literally any leader in history has understood somewhat as a result of that. If you control the food supply, you control the people. Same applies for the water supply. All right. Although, given it's kind of hard to fight the clouds. All right. You've got the food supply predominantly as the pinch point for controlling people. All right. If you want freedom, it starts there. All right. You got to start growing shit. You got to start gardening. You got to, the people in your life who aren't economically productive can be productive in other ways. And you should support that. Ideally, in the interests of getting them to extract those resources that serve as the foundation. Once you have a bunch of tribes of people, essentially, one group of people does one thing or two things, three things, doesn't particularly matter. They do their handful of things. They have their handful of skills. The other group of people, same. Other group of people, same. It's very functionally, and it's part of why they had to destroy the family unit. Families serve as a fantastic foundation for this. You get the people individually and in the tribes, the people who are like you, to produce as much as they can. All right. And hold on to that wealth. All right. Because you can use that wealth to trade for multiple things into the future. All right. I mean, it could be as simple as, buying small parcels of land and, mowing down everything, turn it into firewood, and then resell the land as cleared. But then you got to do stump grinding and that shit, which, to each their own. It's a ball lake. Anyway, you start producing tangible value. All right. With that tangible value, you can then trade and interact with other groups who also are producing value. All right. If you start with the food supply, food is kind of fundamental. It's kind of critical to human survival. So you get one group making, growing one type of food, another group growing another type, another group growing another type. Um, let's say you got the land, but you don't have the energy. You're old, you're crippled, you're beat up. Years of working as an industrial worker or something has not been nice to you. Okay. So you can team up with other people. All right. If you got the land but don't have the personal capability, you talk to the people in your tribe and your group, and then you can start getting them to start developing the land that you can't do. All right. And of course, you spread out what's the word I'm looking for? You spread out the value generated from that. All right. Don't do the king share, well, it's my land. I get the majority. No, don't do that shit. All right. Inevitably, this is communistic. All right. I just being completely honest with you, this is communistic. All right. But you're not going to be able. All right. And this is one thing that you have to get across to, especially the deep individualists, the deep capitalists. All right. You have to get it through their head that they're not going to survive on their own, because they're not. The system's going to chew them up and spit them out just like it does to everybody else. Moving on, once you got the food supply locked down, you set up, you have the base resources. Then you can start worrying about transformative process, value add process. All right. So you got raw materials, you turn them into, I don't know, maybe as a tribe, you come together. All right. I know I say it, don't mind me. It's anyway. Tribe gets together. All right. You know what? We've got a ton of wheat. We've got, well, given you're probably not going to grow sugar, it depends, but sugar beets if you could process it. Anyway, you got a bunch of flour. Fantastic. Start doing a bakery. All right. Take advantage of cottage law. All right. When it comes to food production on your own property, and you can start cranking out. Could be, set up essentially a inland bakery. All right. In terms of the property line, um, do something like that and start generating wealth. But here's the thing: you don't have to, now, given legally, you have to accept dollars, all right, or your own local currency. But of course, there's ways around everything. You don't have to take currency. You could just exchange value tickets, Chuck E. Cheese tokens, essentially. All right. As long as, you can come to an agreement with the other groups, general value. It's not perfect. Ideally, commodities is a better means of exchange. Anyway, once you got the food supply locked down and once you start actually doing value add service with that, that serves as the foundation to your own civilization. All right. And the thing is, people are bored. This is the thing. A lot of people are tied to their tech and their toys, but the reality is the majority of people are bored. They want to be doing other things. It's just everything has been so heavily financialized and taken out of their reach that there's no benefit to them. It's just like most people quiet quitting. Why the hell is everybody quiet quitting? All right, because you're not getting anything for putting in the extra 30%. All right. If you're not going to get anything extra from working harder, why the hell would you work harder? All right. Once you start value add, once you start growing from that base, you can have your own stable, clean food supply. From that food supply, you can empower, all right, directly and indirectly, power and empower people in your local community, people in your tribe's interconnection to other tribes. And then you start building and you start developing. And increasingly, you start to rely on your own trade systems, your own valuation systems. You come to a base agreement. Part of the reason why religion is a big thing is because religion adds the extra layer of trust in a society with the fear of God on top of it. Part of the reason why they had to crush religion. All right, because without the fear of God, people are more likely to burn each other. All right. Generally, if you want to go deep, deep into the past, human beings ran on credit systems for a long time. All right. They were just interpersonal. All right. And then what oh shit, what the hell do they call them? There's the reckoning, but it's also tied to the jubilees. But the reckoning would be, one village and another village decide to even out the debts, because regardless of what you do in society, at the end of the day, I need shit from you, you need shit from me, we need shit from them, they need shit from us. And when you go through and you actually balance the trade back and forth, you can just knock out the majority of those debts and just call them even. All right, because they're at relatively similar values. Given You might not be able to wipe out the debts entirely, but when you stop making money the number one motivator in your life, all right, when you build up a community that actually gives a fuck about each other, you don't need money to constantly meter and measure everyone's every little contribution. You don't need to go and financialize everything and make everything out to be profit. And largely, one of the things that you have to focus on is if you want your freedom, you have to kill profit. You have to kill the idea of profit. You have to kill the idea of interest. You do what you do, I do what I do, they do what they do, we do what we do. All right. And it just flows naturally. Now, of course, people don't want to be taken advantage of, and sometimes throughout history, of course, this system didn't exactly work out perfectly, which is also where race comes into it, unfortunately. Race and culture relations. People are less likely to burn their own, and they're more likely to not just trust their own, but be able to freely interoperate within their own. All right, it's the same reason why every major corporation really wants the diversity, equity, and inclusion bullshit. All right, now a certain amount of it is fucking dog whistling and trash, but really what the corporations want to do is they want to bring in migrants specifically that speak a different language than the native workforce because it crushes the ability of people to form unions because they drop down to race relations instead of focusing on what's good for the whole. The Americans start thinking what's good for the Americans, the Mexicans or any other race of people start thinking what's best for them, and this gives management the ability to pit them against each other and keep them in that constant racial tension and that hatred. And occasionally, when you really deal with some of they're the best managers, they're terrible fucking people. All right. And when I say the best, I don't mean the good best, the best, what corporate America really loves is they will intentionally do shit that makes absolutely no sense. All right. They will bend a rule for one racial group in order to stoke hatred, all right, against them with the, other labor group, and then just keep them fighting, keep them fighting, keep them fighting nonstop. All right. Fundamentally, you have to give up on profit. You have to give up on currencies. You have to give up on these artificial layers of control. You have to give up on the idea. You have to essentially you have to go through ego death. All right, which is where we're at. We're right there. People are actively with how bad things are economically. They're going through ego death. All right. All the things that they wanted to do with their lives, all the things they thought they'd be able to do, is slowly being stripped away from them by an economic system that will not let them have that because it's too busy supporting its own elites. All right. Fundamentally, if you want freedom, you can't, it's not just about freedom for the self, it's freedom for the whole. Nobody can do this shit independently. Nobody has that capability because you cannot do everything, be everywhere, watch everything, handle everything on your own. People have strengths, people have weaknesses, and it's spread all the fuck out there. All right. Now, when it comes to what happens if you don't, I suppose we'll entertain that real quickly. What happens if you don't? If you've been paying attention to people like Jonesy for a while, you know what's coming. It doesn't matter who you vote for. It doesn't matter who you vote for. Fundamentally, the system as it stands is going to do everything it can to hold on to power until all hope is lost. Okay? It will sacrifice to infinity. It won't sacrifice. It will sacrifice you and me, everybody you know, your friends and family. It will work them into the ground. All right? It will work them into the ground. It will extract everything of value. It will take back, and you're seeing this with car repossessions. You're seeing this with the foreclosures starting to spin up again. It's going to claw back everything that it gave people and take away all of what enfranchised them into the system. It's going to leave everybody homeless and destitute. And then it's going to stop letting you have real food. For entertainment purposes only, YouTube. Then it's going to take away the real food. And it might not be bugs, but it will be gray sludge. They very much would like to not have to process the water and just pump straight effluent into the pipes. They very much do not want to have to take care of you or anybody else. They don't give a fuck about you. You give a fuck about you. The people that you know might give a fuck about you. Your friends and family might give a fuck about you. The system doesn't. They don't give a fuck. You're a number on a spreadsheet, and you are a long-term liability that they don't want to have to potentially take lower earnings, lower pay. They don't want to have to actually do their jobs. Okay? They don't want to have to enforce the rules because the rules were, especially on them, the rules were never meant to be enforced on them. They were put in place to be enforced on you and me, on everybody else. They don't give a fuck about us. They don't care. The majority of economic growth and activity is keeping the human race alive, keeping our local domestic populations alive. They already have robotics. They're about to have AI. They're not going to need us anymore. If they needed us, they'd actually treat you well. They'd pay you well. They'd let you have houses at a reasonable rate that isn't fucking extortion. All right? And when it comes to the rules of economic models, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Most of what we've been taught, especially when we were kids, is bullshit. If they need to change the law in a split second to make something happen, they will do it. All right? It's unfortunately, it's like most corporations that I worked for in my younger years. Rules apply asterisk. The rules are the rules until they decide those aren't the rules anymore. All right. And you see how most people's lives have proceeded. It's been a nonstop flurry of never ending bullshit, never ending stressors. Meanwhile, they're fucking rigging the lottery. They're rigging everything, all right, in order to extract maximum value from you. And then when the system collapses, they run off with all of the hard wealth, all of the real value, the shit that comes out of the ground. And then you're going to sit there with a busted up back, busted up knees, busted up joints. And everything that you worked for will just disappear. I've tried to get this point across to people, and sometimes it really just doesn't seem to land. You cannot afford to not give a fuck. All right. I know it's the default. I know it's the default. I know that the idea is, you know what, fuck it. Just kick back and let the entire world burn and go to hell. Okay. Does it deserve it? People in charge of the system, yeah. A lot of the people who had too much fun and very much took liberty of their additional freedoms to the point that they've damaged themselves as well as other people's lives around them. Yeah, yeah. It's really easy. It's really easy to say fuck all those people. Okay. And they've, just existing in life. I can guarantee you've run into people where it's just like, you know what? I wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. Go away. You know? But fundamentally, if as a population, individual to tribe, and then tribe to group of tribes, and then group of tribes to a nation, if we don't start giving a fuck, we're all gonna die. All right? This is not me trying to inflate it. This is the reality. If we don't start giving a fuck about each other, we're gonna fucking die. If we don't start actually enforcing some kind of reasonable standards, if we don't start actually, because this is another thing too, human civilization, did government come out of the fact that we needed to enforce the rules? No. You don't need government for that. People can handle shit on their own. They can enforce rules on their own. All right, like grand projects, grand designs, yeah, maybe you'd want some kind of government or committee or group, like you get all the electricians together and you decide to, electrify a city or villages or multiple. That makes sense. But long term, what does government exist for? Government exists because it creates an abstraction layer, all right, an independent medium. The reason why you have government is so it can apply the law ruthlessly. We used to have the idea of trial by jury, and it was honestly decent level. Now it's trial by whoever could. It's trial by whoever couldn't come up with a good enough excuse to get out of fucking jury duty. Okay? Of course, if you pay attention to topics like jury nullification, of course, which I honestly kind of hope Luigi Mangione gets out through nullification, gets let off the hook, because he, regardless what the health insurance companies might say or think, Luigi did the right thing. I don't give a fuck how many corporate CEO people I piss off by saying that. Luigi did a good thing. That CEO was a scumbag. He was trash. Countless people died because of him. It's only fair that somebody repay that goddamn favor. They're concerned about profit. They don't care about you. All right. The only difference is the system, this abstraction layer, all right, that solely exists to enforce the law coldly. All right. It's a separation from the people so they don't have to think about it, so they don't have to be confronted with the hard realities. Okay. For instance, let's say you had a choice. You can press the red button and save the entire population of your country, but you'd have to kill 10 billion kittens. All right. The reason why government exists is because it can kill the 10 billion kittens and it won't make a difference. It won't make a difference. It won't do any lasting damage. The reason government exists is to do all the shit that your brain doesn't want to have to contend with, to address the problems that it doesn't want to have to contend with on a societal level. That's why you have government. Religion, the family unit, tribal function, people can enforce a reasonable set of rules on themselves. Religion provided a decent starting base. Thou shalt not kill, or thou shalt not murder. Don't screw your neighbor's wife, all right, or husband. Essentially, don't lie, cheat, steal. Be a decent person and treat each other as if you're family. Because unfortunately, at least for some cases, unfortunately, we have to look at the reality that left versus right, any of this bullshit, we're all from the same base. Give me just a moment. One moment. And here we are back again. All right, where did I leave off? All right. Essentially, regardless of the circumstances, we are just one gigantic family. We are the human race, no matter how hippie it sounds like. And honestly, one thing that we do really need to get established, all right, and it's got to be either, talk about Antichrist shit, here we go. Either we need a new religion that everybody can fall under. That's reasonable. You know, we don't necessarily need miles of stories and, just a pantheon of all of the deeds and works of 3,000 plus years ago, but, remembering that certain things happened, like a gigantic fucking flood, is absolutely important. But in lieu of that, we need some kind of merger between religions, ideally. Um, some kind of merger, just some base reminder that God will absolutely kick the shit out of us for behaving poorly. We need a standard rule set, and this is absolutely fundamental. A standard, unchanging rule set that is forward thinking enough. It's got to be vague enough and forward thinking enough, but applicable enough that it should keep civilization going for many thousands of years into the future, assuming we haven't damned ourselves to hell just yet. All right. In terms of the levels of pollution and general toxicity, we have pumped so much toxic shit into, or all around the planet that we've done quite a bit of damage. But once we have a reasonable set of standards that people can agree to, it doesn't necessarily have to be religious, although that adds the fear of God is a powerful demotivating force for people who do bad shit. Okay. And we do need to, even though it will restrict freedom, there are certain people who take quite a lot of advantages of freedoms that are destructive, which is not ideal. All right, especially you look at, modern feminism, letting women go off and jump on every forbidden fruit they find. Not exactly the best choice for a stable society and civilization. We've got to get past this bullshit. We have to bring things back down to the granular, we need solid ground under our feet again. And the thing is, fundamentally speaking, we don't need government if we can just agree to be fucking decent. And where certain groups are not decent, it would fall on the individual tribes and societies to deal with their fucking problems or deal with the neighboring problems if they honestly became a problem to them or surrounding peoples. And fundamentally, too, beyond the standard tribal thinking, we have to be capable of leaving each other the fuck alone. Because that is one thing in particular. All right. We should absolutely have robust societies where people interact openly, freely, regularly. But, but there are, of course, there's the split between introverts and extroverts, and even the most diehard introvert eventually gets to the point where they need to embrace a certain amount of extroversion or they will go insane. All right. And with the extroverts, they also need to embrace introversion because, good God, the party's got to end someday. All right. We have to come to reason. We have to come to reason. And by hook or by crook, on your own volition or by being put to the grindstone, we're all going to get there eventually. So the question really comes down to, are you prepared as an individual to take the step forward to secure the freedom not just for yourself, but for everyone around you? Are you willing to throw off the promises and the vices and all of the bullshit that's offered to you in order to do what's right for you and your own? This is a hard question for a lot of people. All right. Again, I keep referencing South Park, but it's a perfect fucking example. Grandpa Marsh making a deal with Man Bear Pig because they wanted sports cars and ice cream. Fundamentally, this is the choice. High highs, low lows, or you can have a wide band of this is a living. You can be at peace with the world, or you can love it one day, hate it the next. We can find a decent middle ground. And the reality is, coming back to the politics, has it not been made clear to you that you can't trust these fucking people? Fundamentally, has it not been made clear that you cannot trust these people, that you cannot, and this is another thing too that needs to be addressed: centralization of power and authority. Every time people sign away their rights, like instead of dealing with shit in the local community ourselves, we have police forces, we have the legal system. All right, now the legal system, honestly, with this kind of mindset, should really only apply to like intertribe relations, you know? But most of the things that people can deal with themselves, they just don't want to. And they tick a box, sign it away, throw away some, tax money, and all of a sudden, making sure that people are doing the right thing and behaving reasonably is not their problem anymore. And then you leave it to somebody else or a group of bureaucrats to deal with the shit, And the bureaucrats bring on the police forces, and the police forces may start off decent and then might slowly trend towards corruption. Fish rots from the head down. Starts at the bureaucracy and it works its way down. We could eliminate all of the bullshit, where we wouldn't need any of the shit anymore. You know, we could feasibly get to the point where we could just frolic in the fields. All right, and we'd have the time to do it. We'd have the capability. Things would be relatively calm, serene. We could achieve fucking anything. But we have to get past the idea that we have to keep looking for something above us. Not all the way above us, but something under that and above us to deal with the problems. All right. I'm going to think if there's something I'm forgetting here. You start building real value. You share, you trade, you engage in personal credit. You do the work. What am I forgetting? What am I forgetting? Damn. I don't know. I can't think of it right offhand. But there's always more. These subjects, honestly, with enough thought, I can go on for these kind of things for literally ages. Literally ages. But I'll end it here. You guys have a good one. I'll end it on this note. Those who do not make a choice will have a choice made for them. You can have a better future and a better reality for yourself, your friends, your family, all the people around you, your community. You can have a decent future, or you can have the cold, dead, zombified control system that sees you as just a number, that will throw you into trenches knowing that you will lose, intentional losses, that will take every single thing that you've worked for and leave you destitute, broken, and destroyed. You can have that, or you can have freedom. The real freedom, not the freedom to destroy yourself, which is pretty much what we have. All right, we don't have. Here we go, spinning up again. We don't have the actual freedom to do anything good. We don't honestly have the freedom to be freely and truly productive. We have freedom up to the point that it helps us destroy ourselves. You have the freedom to go engage in questionable sexual behavior. You have the freedom to use drugs. All right. Some are worse than others, obviously. You've got the freedom to do all of this. But in doing so, you do more damage to yourself, you do more damage to your family, you do more damage to your friends, you do more damage to your community. You tear everything apart in your wake to feed the high, to feed the vices. And at the end of the day, what the hell do you have? Nothing. You had some good times and now you feel hollow. Choice is yours. I'll end it here. This has been Michael from Spades Consulting. You guys have a good one. Stop by the site if you're interested in personal or business consulting. If you're interested in written content, check out the Substack. And if you appreciate the video or jive with any of this, like, favorite, share, sub, hype, leave a comment, tell me your thoughts. I think that covers it. You guys have a good one.